In the heart of Washington, D.C., where the rhythms of power blended with the soft pulse of everyday life, lived two young souls who had never imagined that love could arrive quietly, effortlessly, like a sunrise casting light on streets they had walked 1,000 times. Emily Carter, 23, had grown up in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, the daughter of a school counselor and a retired firefighter, and she carried in her a warmth that made strangers smile without knowing why. She had just started working as an intern at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History, a dream job she had wanted since she was a child, wandering the city on field trips, fascinated by the stories that objects carried. Across the city, in a modest apartment in Georgetown, lived 24-year-old Jackson Hale, a political science graduate who had taken a job as a junior researcher at a nonprofit focusing on youth civic engagement. Jackson was the kind of young man who looked like he thought too deeply about everything yet laughed easily, a combination that made people trust him instantly. Their worlds should have crossed earlier. After all, DC wasn't so big, but fate chose a more poetic timing. The day they met, Emily had taken the morning shift at the museum. A new exhibition on American letters had opened, featuring handwritten notes and love letters from soldiers, presidents, and everyday citizens. Emily adored the quiet mornings before tourism rushes began, when she could hear her own footsteps echo through the halls. She was adjusting a small display sign when she heard a voice behind her, soft, curious, warm. "Is it always this peaceful here in the mornings?" She turned and found Jackson, wearing a visitor's badge and holding a steaming cup of coffee that he seemed almost afraid to sip. His eyes were bright, as though the entire museum had awakened something in him. Emily smiled, brushing back a loose strand of auburn hair. "Only until 10, she said. "Then the field trips arrive, and the chaos begins." Jackson laughed. "Then I'm glad I caught the quiet part." He paused, studying one of the displays of wartime love letters. "There's something timeless about these," he said softly. "Like the world changes, but wanting to love and be loved it doesn't." Emily felt something shift inside her. Most visitors moved quickly, grabbing quick photos, but he looked at the letters like they were living things. "Do you like history?" she asked. "I like stories," Jackson said. "Especially the ones that tell you who people really were." They ended up walking through the exhibition together, something museum staff technically shouldn't do but sometimes allowed when the person was genuinely interested. Jackson asked thoughtful questions, and Emily found herself answering not like an employee but like someone sharing a secret passion. When they reached the final display, he turned to her. "Would it be completely inappropriate to ask your name?" "Only if you disappear afterward," she teased. "Never," he said, offering a hand. "I'm Jackson." "Emily." They shook hands, and both felt a spark, real, electric, impossible to ignore. When Jackson finally left the museum that morning, he carried something more than memories. He carried the image of Emily's smile, the melody of her laugh, the way she lit up when she talked about history. Meanwhile, Emily watched him go with a strange flutter in her heart she hadn't expected at all. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the Washington Monument and cast long shadows across the reflecting pool, their thoughts drifted back to each other. Jackson debated whether it was foolish to return to the museum the next morning, but destiny solved the problem for him. He didn't have to wait. The next day, Emily was leaving her shift when she nearly collided with someone carrying a stack of flyers near the metro entrance. "Oh gosh, sorry," she began, then stopped when she recognized him. Jackson looked equally stunned but delighted. "Emily. I didn't expect to see you." "You're handing out flyers?" she asked, amused. He held one up, slightly embarrassed. My nonprofit is doing a community event at Freedom Plaza. I volunteered for outreach. I swear this isn't my usual look. She laughed. I like it. It's very civic. You say that like it's a compliment. It is. They talked for a few minutes, the city buzzing around them, the rumble of buses, the chatter of tourists, the distant wail of sirens, but in that moment, the noise became background to their growing connection. When Jackson finally asked, "Can I take you out sometime coffee?" maybe Emily felt the answer rising from her heart before her mind even formed it. "Yes," she said softly. "I'd like that." Their first date happened 2 days later at a small, locally owned cafe near DuPont Circle. It was one of those places with mismatched chairs, local art on the walls, and soft jazz that made everything feel cinematic. Emily arrived wearing a simple floral dress, nervous but excited, while Jackson wore the same cologne he'd worn at the museum, a detail she noticed instantly. They talked for hours, drifting from favorite books to childhood stories to dreams for the future. Emily confessed she wanted to become a curator one day, shaping exhibitions that made people feel the way history made her feel. Jackson admitted he wanted to eventually start his own organization, something that helped young Americans believe in their own voices. By the time their coffee cups were empty, the city lights glowed beyond the window, and neither wanted the night to end. "Walk with me," Jackson asked. They walked through DuPont Circle, past street musicians and couples sitting on benches, surrounded by the hum of urban life. Jackson stopped near the fountain, glancing at the water rippling under the moonlight. "You know," he said, "I'm usually good with words. But right now I can't find the right ones." Emily looked up at him. "For what?" "For how fast this feels," he whispered. Emily felt her breath catch, because she felt it too, that terrifying, exhilarating pull that made the world sharpen around him. "Sometimes," she whispered back, "the right things don't wait." Their second date happened only 2 days later, then a third, a fourth. Soon they became inseparable. They explored the city like it was new, discovering rooftop restaurants in Navy Yard, late-night bookstores in Adams Morgan, quiet corners in the Library of Congress where they whispered like school children. They shared ice cream on the National Mall and watched cherry blossoms bloom around the Tidal Basin, petals falling softly onto Emily's shoulder while Jackson brushed them away gently, his fingers lingering just a moment too long. Love didn't thunder into their lives, it unfolded, steady and warm, like pages turning in a novel neither wanted to end. One evening, about 2 months after they met, they found themselves on the rooftop of Jackson's building. The sky glowed in shades of lavender and gold, and the cool breeze carried the distant sound of traffic. Emily leaned against the railing, closing her eyes. "I love this city," she said. "But sometimes I feel like people come here only to dream big and leave everything else behind." Jackson stepped beside her. "I grew up thinking DC was all politics," he said. "But meeting you, you made me see a softer side of it." She opened her eyes slowly, and their gazes met. "You make it sound like I changed something." "You changed everything," Jackson said quietly. Emily's breath wavered. The sincerity in his voice felt like the kind of truth people wrote songs about. "Jackson." He reached for her hand. "I don't want to scare you. I know we're young. I know life changes. But I want you to know that I'm here. Really here." Emily squeezed his hand, feeling tears prick behind her eyes. "I'm here too." Their love deepened with each passing week. They shared playlists, traded favorite movies, introduced each other to friends, built inside jokes that would make no sense to anyone else. Emily learned that Jackson secretly loved cheesy romantic comedies. Jackson learned that Emily talked to museum exhibits when she thought no one was watching. They balanced each other, her calm steadiness to his quiet intensity, her bright optimism to his thoughtful realism. But life, as always, tested them. One evening, Emily received an email she'd dreamed of for years, a prestigious fellowship at the Smithsonian that required full-time commitment, longer hours, and weekend work. She stared at the acceptance message, excitement battling guilt. "This is huge," Jackson told her immediately when she told him. He pulled her into a tight hug. "You deserve this. But we'll have less time together," she whispered. He cupped her face gently. "Emily, I'm not going anywhere." But as the weeks passed, the pressure grew. Emily's schedule became overwhelming, and Jackson's job ramped up too as his organization prepared for a national youth summit. They still loved each other fiercely, but exhaustion created distance. Some nights Emily fell asleep before answering his texts. Some mornings Jackson rushed out before she could call him back. They weren't fighting, they were fading. One autumn evening, they met at the Lincoln Memorial, hoping the calm of the reflecting pool might ease the tension. Emily sat on the steps, rubbing her temples. Jackson watched her silently, then finally said, "Em, we need to talk." Her heart tightened. "I know. We're not okay," he said softly. "Not because we don't care. But because we're drowning in everything else." She nodded, tears forming. "I feel like I'm losing you, and I hate it." "You're not losing me," he said, taking her hands. "But we have to choose each other, even when life gets chaotic." Emily looked at him through tears. "Then let us choose." "Every day," he whispered. And they did. They started protecting time for each other: late-night dinners, early morning walks by the Potomac, quiet Sundays spent cooking in Emily's small kitchen. They learned that love wasn't just the beautiful moments, it was the choosing, the trying, the forgiving. With every shared moment, they renewed their bond, stronger than before. Months passed, and one crisp spring evening, Jackson invited Emily to join him for a walk near the Tidal Basin. She arrived to find cherry blossoms glowing softly under lantern lights, petals drifting over the water like pale pink snow. Jackson stood waiting beneath a blooming tree, looking nervous in a way she had never seen before. "What's going on?" she asked, smiling. He swallowed hard. "Emily Carter," he began, voice trembling slightly, "the day I met you at that museum, I had no idea my whole life was about to shift. You are my calm, my laughter, my favorite story. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I want it with you." Her breath caught as he stepped closer. "Will you be my girlfriend, officially, even though we already act like an old married couple most days?" Emily let out a choked laugh, tears shining in her eyes. "Yes. Of course yes." He pulled her into his arms, and as cherry blossoms fell around them, they kissed a kiss that felt like a promise carved into the heart of Washington, D.C. The world around them might shift, dreams might change, life might challenge them again, but they had chosen each other, and they would keep choosing each other, through sunrises and deadlines, through quiet mornings and chaotic nights, through every chapter their young lives would write. And under those soft pink blossoms, their story truly began.